Fabulous executive living bordering Oak Mountain State Park. Colleen and David Black, Keller Williams Realty, 356-5412. Call on Colleen.
This is the Weather Xtreme video for Saturday, June the 13th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters with you this morning. And what an active day we had yesterday. Let's take a look at the storm prediction storm report map from yesterday. And boy, can you see where all the action was. And we certainly had our share from, say, about Clanton northward with a nice mesoscale convective complex. Nice, and not in terms of the storm damage it did, but certainly a very interesting day as from a meteorological point of view. Our Skycam network showing some sun at Clanton and with a combination of some high clouds as well as some breaks in those clouds. Kind of a pretty shot over Decatur and over the Tennessee River this morning. And speaking of another river, here is the Demopolis River looking rather placid this morning as we look off to the north with a few cirrus clouds. That front we've been watching nearly all week has sagged into the area, and certainly along and south of that is where we expect most of the showers and thunderstorms to occur. We're still into a bit of a northwesterly flow, not a strong northwesterly flow, but certainly a gentle northwesterly flow, if you will, which means we've got to watch those thunderstorm complexes that form off to our northwest and may move this direction. Still warm across the southern tier of the United States, although for us in central Alabama, it certainly looks like we're just a bit cooler thanks to all those thunderstorms we had yesterday, and especially that big complex that moved through. We're generally in the mid and upper 60s this morning. Speaking of radar, we are seeing another kind of a complex of storms, kind of a collection of storms moving through the northern part of Alabama. And as that does, people especially along and north of Birmingham are going to get some rain this morning. QBF-wise, they're still looking at some rain across primarily the northern two-thirds of the state of Alabama, but the heaviest rain in the central U.S., where most of the action is going to continue for the next several days, and then generally just along and north of the Tennessee River Valley. Storm Prediction Center outlooking a fairly substantial area for slight risk today in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and northwest Florida, and also out in the Central Plains states. That area shifts back to the Central Plains primarily on day 2, which is Sunday, and then by day 3 on Monday, it's still back there in the Central Plains. It's tropically looking. There is no areas that are being watched for tropical storm development. Here's the 060 GFS model run, and the ridge is just off to our west, and that keeps us in a northwesterly flow today. The northwesterly flow kind of dampens just a little bit as we see a number of little disturbances moving through. So I think the risk of these mesoscale convective complexes is there tomorrow. As a matter of fact, the GFS is indicating one over northeastern Arkansas tomorrow at midday. The northwesterly flow kind of shifts a little east as the ridge shifts a little further to the east on Monday, and that should essentially bring things back to the north a little bit, and that should dry us out, and it stays that way on Tuesday. The ridge continues to build to our west, but we're seeing some fairly strong short waves move through the flow, and those will dampen the ridge from time to time, as we're seeing the one over the eastern Great Lakes on Wednesday, and then by Thursday, that one's moving into New England, and we have another one coming out of the north central part of the United States that is dampening the ridge for us just a little bit. And this represents a fairly significant change in the GFS's forecast, because by this time yesterday, it was showing a fairly substantial 588 ridge over the eastern two-thirds of the country. So this will, I think, keep us essentially dry, but we'll have to watch how strong these impulses are as they move through the flow. On Saturday, we can see that big closed low up over the western Great Lakes, and that's certainly responsible for a surface low and also the possibility that we may see some showers down this way. And then by Sunday, that closed low is beginning to make its influence felt all across the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys and well into the southeastern U.S. So we'll be watching for that change next weekend. In the meantime, out in voodoo country, the GFS is still hanging on to this idea of bringing a closed low down into the southeastern U.S. That would, of course, be rather stormy, with the emphasis on diurnal convection primarily. And then by the end of the period, by the 28th, it begins to open back up. And boy, look at that, 594 heat bubble over the northern Mexico and the southwestern United States. And that could spell the beginnings of some fairly significant heat as we approach July, which tends to be a rather warm month anyway around central Alabama. Appreciate you tuning in to the Weather Xtreme video. I anticipate having the next one posted by 7:30 or 8 tomorrow morning. In the meantime, I hope that you have a great Saturday and Godspeed.